So imagine you've spent over 10 years studying for this massive test.
Right, a really high stakes one.
Yeah. And you pass it with flying colors. You
Yeah.
totally ace it. But then, well, you completely fail the moment you walk out the door.
Which is just incredibly frustrating.
Exactly. And, that is the exact reality for millions of language learners. I mean, picture this. You've studied English for years. You ace all the grammar tests, hundreds of words.
Right, you're probably watching subtitled movies without a problem.
Yeah, happily watching movies, understanding the plot. But then you step outside and they walk up and ask you a simple everyday question in English.
And your heart just races.
It does. You completely freeze. Your mind, which just had thousands of words in it, goes totally blank.
It's a profound physical reaction, and it feels like a total betrayal by your own brain, honestly.
Oh, for sure.
Because you put in the hours, you did the homework, but in that moment of truth, the system just crashes. So if you're listening to this right now and nodding along, I can promise you, you are not alone.
Definitely not alone.
That street corner paralysis is practically a universal experience for anyone acquiring a second language. We're talking about moving from passive knowledge to active fluency.
Which is exactly what we're getting into in today's deep dive. We're unpacking a really compelling speech titled, Why You Can't Speak English, Even After Years of Studying.
It's a fascinating look at the mechanics behind that freeze.
Right. Our mission today is to tear down exactly why this dreaded brain freeze happens, like the actual cognitive reasons, and then walk through the source's highly actionable blueprint for fixing it.
Because nobody wants to be standing frozen on the sidewalk just trying to give directions to the train station.
No, it's the worst. Okay, let's unpack this. The source starts by diagnosing the root cause, which is this massive myth in language learning.
It's the biggest myth out there.
Right, the belief that years of studying automatically equals fluency, like time served just magically makes you fluent.
Yeah, the source tackles that using a really brilliant analogy. Imagine someone who desperately wants to learn how to swim. So they spend 5 years reading books about swimming. They memorize every technique. They study the physics of buoyancy.
But they never actually get in the water.
Exactly. They never touch a pool. So can they swim? No, obviously not.
Right.
Because reading, memorizing vocabulary, learning grammar, none of that is the physical act of speaking.
That makes so much sense. It's like memorizing sheet music.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Yeah, like you spend years studying the history of composers and learning chord progressions, and then you sit down at a grand piano and expect your fingers to just instantly play Beethoven.
Which is impossible.
Right, because your fingers have no muscle memory. You might know the music in your head, but your body doesn't know how to produce it.
Exactly. And to use your analogy, the sheet music is what we call declarative memory, just acquiring facts.
Okay, declarative memory.
Right. But the muscle memory in your fingers, that's procedural memory. It's a reflex. And exams heavily reward that passive declarative knowledge.
But real-world conversations don't.
No, they demand procedural reflexes. When someone asks you a question, you don't have time to dig through your mental filing cabinet for a grammar rule.
Yeah, and that disconnect is where the panic sets in. So let's look at that panic, the cognitive traffic jam. What is actually happening in our heads the moment we freeze?
Well, it's an exhausting multi-step process. First, your brain generates a thought in your native language.
Okay, step 1.
Step 2, it attempts to translate that thought into English. Step 3, it runs a quick scan to check all the grammar rules.
Which kicks a lot of mental energy.
Huge amounts. Then, step 4, it worries about pronunciation. And finally, hovering over all of this is the fear of making a mistake.
That is just, that's a 5-car pileup in your brain just to say, the train station is that way.
Exactly. It's too much at once.
But wait, isn't translating a necessary stepping stone when you're learning? Like, how do you just stop translating?
What's fascinating here is that fluent speakers entirely bypass this chain.
They just skip it.
Yeah, they think and speak directly. They don't translate. And when you try to juggle all those translation and grammar steps at once, you hit a biological limit.
A biological limit.
Yeah, your working memory can only hold about 4 to 7 items at a time. So when you force all those translation steps into the exact same millisecond,
you overflow the buffer.
You do. You create this massive cognitive traffic jam. Your brain actually interprets it as a threat.
Oh, wow. Like a literal physical threat.
Yes. Your heart races, cortisol floods your system, and your brain just shuts down non-essential functions to survive. That's why your mind goes blank.
Okay, so translation is basically the enemy of fluency.
It really is.
So how do we bypass this? The source gives a major solution about changing how we store language, right?
Yes. It says you have to stop learning individual words and start learning complete phrases.
Right. Like, don't just learn the word hungry, learn the phrase I'm hungry.
Exactly.
Or instead of beautiful, you learn what a beautiful day. Or for late, you learn sorry, I'm late.
And that subtle shift does incredible heavy lifting.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the source says you should take this further by thinking in English using these simple phrases.
Right, simple everyday thoughts.
Yeah, like narrating your own life like a documentary. It's morning, or I'm making tea, or the weather is nice today. It turns these mundane moments into a massive habit.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's all about the psychology of chunking.
Chunking.
Yeah, like how you memorize a phone number in blocks, not as 10 individual digits. By learning whole phrases, your brain doesn't have to glue individual words together with grammar rules in real time.
It just pulls the whole prepackaged phrase right off the shelf.
Exactly. It completely bypasses that working memory overload we talked about.
That is so smart. Okay, so that covers the internal habits, but we've got to talk about external actions getting in the water, as we said earlier.
The physical practice.
Right. The source lays out this 20-minute daily blueprint, which is super practical, and the main rule is you have to speak every single day.
Out loud. That's crucial.
Yeah, talking to yourself, describing your actions out loud. I'm opening the door, I'm studying English.
Just engaging those vocal cords.
Right, and the blueprint is basically think in English, speak aloud, listen to native content, and read aloud. And they really stress that doing this consistently every day beats cramming for hours once a week.
Because consistency builds that procedural muscle memory.
But I've got to ask, and this is on behalf of the listener, really, if I'm just talking to myself aloud in my apartment, aren't I going to be practicing mistakes?
This raises an important question, right? Because perfectionism is what holds so many people back from trying something new.
Oh, totally. We're terrified of looking foolish.
But the source is very clear on this. Do not fear mistakes. Every fluent speaker made thousands of them.
Right. Native speakers make mistakes all the time.
Exactly. Mistakes aren't failures. They are lytical proof that you are learning and trying. Waiting for quote-unquote perfect English is just a trap.
So what does this all mean? If we wrap this all up, fluency doesn't happen overnight, right?
No, definitely not.
It happens one sentence, one conversation, and one day at a time. You've got to stop translating, start learning phrases instead of words, and just embrace the mistakes.
Absolutely. And I want to leave you with one final kind of provocative thought to mull over.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, we know the language we think in subtly shapes our reality, right?
Right.
So consider what happens when you actually start narrating your daily life. Even simple things like, I am making tea in a new language.
Oh, wow.
By consciously changing the language of your internal monologue, are you actually starting to develop a slightly different perspective, or even unlocking a new facet of your own personality?
That is, I mean, wait, really?
Yes.
That is incredible to think about. You're basically rewiring how you experience the world.
You really are.
Well, that is a perfect thought to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It was a pleasure.
And to everyone listening, don't let the fear of mistakes freeze you on the sidewalk. Keep exploring, keep trying, and keep speaking. See you next time.